Let's call the meeting to order. And can we have roll call?
Agnes Varnarski.
Present.
Dana Syvertson.
Here.
Peter Hahn.
Here.
Seth Marcus.
Here.
Ed Madden.
Present.
Bill Moskell. John Comish is absent, but we have a quorum.
Okay, can I ask for an approval of the minutes of the board meeting of June 9th?
I approve.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, minutes are so approved. Let's move on to old business. And we'll have Agnes give us a just brief
Volunteer work days.
the volunteer work days.
Right. So the last volunteer work day was excellent. It was really great. We had 21 volunteers and we transplanted 4,000 plants. So that's a tenth of the entire amount. So it was really great. And it was really a wonderful work day. So
Currently we're at 1,529 hours logged in for the year. So that's way ahead of every year we've ever had. Turnout last week was 21 volunteers. Volunteers picking right up. People are just really coming out of the woodwork to volunteer, so it's great.
New volunteers too.
A lot of new volunteers. So let's move on to, unfortunately, Agnes' summer interns. She's gonna have to bring us up to speed on that. There's exactly 4 weeks left in their summer internship.
And they've been doing great. They're really hard workers. They've just gotten a lot done. There's always more to do. So.
May I just comment, when I went on July 4th and Eric was there because he watered for you, and we spent a half an hour together transplanting and just chatting, and I was asking him about his goals, and he said he always wants to be connected with us. That is really flattering, but he hopes when he graduates from college to get a job with the Forest Preserve District. He mentioned talking with Seth, and Seth was giving him some great ideas about where to pursue his goal, but he said he always wants to be connected with us. So just wanted to tell you that.
Yeah, they're a couple of really great kids. Just really have their hearts in the right place. So it's been a real treat to have them for sure. So looking forward to the last 4 weeks, and don't forget on that last day.
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday, and hold on. Wednesday, August 10th is the traditional prairie hopping day for the interns. So if anybody would like to join us, we go to 2 or 3 special places. We have lunch, and it's their sort of farewell day with us. So you're all invited. If you want to come out, just let us know. We make provisions for it. Okay? Moving, any comments, questions, anything about that? Okay, moving on to the the Prospect Heights Public Library and Park District events. Several things to report here. So on the Nature Speaks program, Seth's terrific recommendation of a New York Times article that was featured on a guy by the name of Dan Jaffe Wilder. It was an article about naturalizing your lawn. The guy is really has some great ideas. His website is really terrific. He's a photographer, a lecturer. He has some pretty innovative ideas. So on Seth's recommendation, I reached out to him, and lo and behold, he spent time on our website, decided we were a worthy cause, doing it below his standard speaking fee, and very happy to do that. So he has been booked for October 20th, and we're in the process of creating his webpage. And as soon as that's ready, that will be up and running. Other people in the pipeline for speakers, and I just got the dates for next year from Terry, but we're certainly talking to Grace, the beekeeper from the ComEd program. She's a just wealth of knowledge and a real fun person. And the painter that we all saw and loved out at the Chicago Botanical Gardens. He's also a very good speaker. So working with trying to round up those two people to add to the program. And those would be potential new people. I did want to interject this. Robert Czar from the Last Nature Speaks talk. We continued our discussion after his program. We didn't do the Zoom dinner, but he asked that we do a Zoom meeting, Zoom lunch, and nobody was available. So I talked to Robert. He was very interested in partnering with the NRC to promote not only his platform, but our platform as well. I said I would bring it up at the board meeting. We could talk about it, discuss it. His take on this was that where he saw us fitting in is that we are sort of like an embodiment of what can be accomplished with a grassroots organization and reaching out to people and building things. And he felt that somehow we would have some particular draw. He's trying to grow his organization as well. And so it was his opinion that the best way we could help him would be to try to target doctors who prescribe to patients and go through the process of educating them and create programs that would outreach using his resources, his contacts and things, reaching out to doctors to try to get them to prescribe things. And then of course, because we're the local source, hopefully build some kind of a relationship there that would work for everybody. So I said I would bring it up. Certainly don't expect resolved at this point, but just food for thought. I think it's a discussion that we need to continue. I would say we'd probably be hard pressed to pick up any new initiatives on any front at this point, especially with the shoreline restoration coming up. So I don't think we need to even really have the conversation about it now, but just so you're aware that that's out there and can start thinking about it, and at some point just relay your thoughts about it.
Well,
So
I have a couple of thoughts. First of all, to be nice, if we know a few good doctors, but I think something still can be done. Maybe not in terms of directing our volunteers doing some stuff, but maybe there's some things that we can do, and maybe this is where I can contribute a little bit to see and really think through, well, what would be a good way for us to maybe just kind of market our commission days as something that local doctors could prescribe to, and we're win-win where we could potentially get some new volunteers out of it, but really more for emphasizing mission. And although we don't explicitly state in our mission, to help get better health, help improve their health, it certainly is an aspect of what we do that is worthy of us to acknowledge and to highlight. We talk about how it feels good, so the psychological, emotional connection to it, but and we know this personally, how it helps to get out, to get to nature and get hands in the dirt, connect with the earth. So I'm gonna personally just kind of think through and see, okay, well, maybe maybe we could reach out to one of the local boards, or for lack of a better words, whatever local doctor associations there are, to kind of run this by and maybe you know, see if there is something we could do that would help him, that would help us. So I'll be doing that, kind of thinking that through, maybe looking to see if I can target some organizations that would be a dual reach out. Maybe we did a letter from Robert and Commission, if any doctors would be interested in.
Yeah, his theory was that if you try to build everything with the end user, then that's a big task. But if you can go in and get one or two doctors who fully embrace the whole process, you have the potential of them affecting thousands of people a year. So there is some merit to that thinking. But I agree with you, Ed. There's maybe something there, but right now it's hard pressed. So if you want to pick up the initiative, certainly.
I'll definitely look into that. What I might kind of hone in on, at least initially, are doctors that have more holistic practice.
I will give you Robert's contact information to do all that stuff, and then we can jointly talk to him.
Can I say something, please?
Yes.
If we're going to join with this, is there an expectation from the patients? If they come out and they're not getting what they feel is a benefit to them, are we obligated in some way to say, yes, if you come, you're going to feel better? And what if they don't feel better and they say, wait a minute, this isn't working, you purported this, and this isn't happening for me? So I'm just I want to be the devil's advocate. Are we seeing this as we're a resource for him when he says get out in nature, or are we doing this to say that this is a way for us to get more volunteers? I think it really has to be fine. I don't think we should have any liability here. You know what I'm saying? I don't want us to get, if a patient says, hey, I'm coming out, but I'm not getting better.
Yeah, no, your points are well taken, and we would have to tread lightly and not, getting into an area, especially with potential liability. But I was thinking more of just in terms of our educational focus and using our group as an example of the things that their patients can do, and not for their doctor to prescribe 2 work days with the prospect. Anything along that line, but more of an encouragement to their patients to get out into nature and making them aware that there are organizations like ours. So, yeah, you're taking, we would need to kind of be careful that we're not misrepresenting things or doing it, but I think there is still kind of a value of, at least on an educational front, a partnership. So I'll look into it. If it doesn't go anywhere.
Okay. Thanks, Ed. I appreciate that. Any more comments or discussion on that?
Just an apology. I didn't know that there was a Zoom lunch. I know that he declined the dinner. I must have missed the memo. I didn't know that there was a Zoom lunch.
Well, it was just an ad hoc thing that came together at some point. I felt bad that we didn't follow up with him and we couldn't make the dinner thing happen. So I threw out that possibility. So. Okay, any more comment, question? Moving on to the Park District, we have classes. Seth has a class that's supposedly coming up here, and you want to talk about that, Seth?
Well, it's a class I'm offering through the Park District. It meets August 1st and August 8th, an hour each time. And there's been some issue about how it's promoted and how much to promote it and the like. So at this point, there's actually very few people who've signed up. So I'm going to be talking to the Park District of how to proceed if it's very limited enrollment. But anyway, at this point, it'd be great if people want to sign up. It's August 1st and August 8th. And the topic is, sorry?
I'm sorry, I was going to say, do you need anything from us? in the way of support?
No, just, if anyone promotes it or whatever, but the topic is invasive plants and native plants.
Okay. In terms of Marcy's request for if we had any more classes, Agnes and I threw out the a history of the slough tour on September 14th at 5:30 as a possibility. And basically what we thought we'd do is just meet at the deck and talk about the history of the slough, take a quick tour of the boardwalks, the sections, and answer people's question, but focus more on the history and the trauma of the slough. So that is out there at September 14th at 5:30.
Dana, could you not make that? Could you not make that the following week when it's Prairie Week? The following Wednesday?
The copy's already in. I can try, and that was one of the. But if we were going to do that, if it's Prairie Week, I think we'd rather do the same sort of event at the Prairie, though.
Okay.
And that would be one of my suggestions for Prairie.
I think it would be fun going forward if we had a class that we offered to the public about native plants. The Park District has a history of, as you know, sport events, classes involving sport activities, sometimes tours. But I guess they actually don't have much of a history in, I guess you might sort of educational classes, like specifically, non-sports related education classes. But there's some other, I've forgotten now, but there's some other entity within the town that does more of that. And maybe this, either we have to figure out how to promote this in future years within the Park District, or maybe have such a class through a different entity. I know, for example, the community colleges obviously do it, but there was some other entity that they mentioned that tends to offer classes to the public. That
I think the library would be a real good fit, Seth.
Okay.
They have a real robust promotional sort of vehicle.
Also, District 214 has a number of classes for adults, non-credit, type classes. And I'm sure you guys have probably seen the catalogs that come in the mail for, you can learn salsa dancing and, how to make, macrame jewelry, things like that. So that might be something to pursue.
Sorry, Ed, I missed what organization?
District 214, their adult education program.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we have real good connections there too. So the bird walks are scheduled for September 17th and October 8th. Those are hardwired already, so those dates are not flexible. And on October 24th, the last event with the Park District is the pop-up art sale at the
September.
I'm sorry, September 24th.
And where is it held?
It's the pop-up art sale
At Isaac Walton.
at Isaac Walton. That could actually, and I was thinking that could be the anchor event of Prairie Week.
Dana, you couldn't get a Nature Speaks speaker for that Thursday of.
It's not a matter of getting a speaker. It's a matter of having a date from the library, and we have fixed dates from them. So.
Okay.
Okay. By the way, the title of Dan Wilder's presentation is "Kill Your Lawn."
Very direct.
All right. So if there's any other comments, questions, concerns about that, let's move on to District 214, the Buffalo Grove High School Prairie update. Unfortunately, I have to ask Agnes to do that.
So you may or may not know, I think we talked about this last time, there was a big overrun of crabgrass. So we went over there, we addressed it, we had the students out, they were carefully pulling the crabgrass and stuff. Thank you. Also was there, and so pulling the crabgrass from around the native grasses so that we could go back and apply a grass-specific herbicide to the crabgrass. And I have recently been there to check it out and see how it's doing, and it's doing quite well. There's a couple of casualties of native grasses, but we'll be fine. We're gonna, put down a little bit more seed, and it'll be really good. Everything else looks great. They're watering it every day. You can see they're really taking care of it. Great kids, and so I'm excited.
Okay, any comments, questions? Let's move on to the agrovoltaics update, Seth.
So the feedback I got from many sources, many entities, was very, very positive. But as you know, the whole idea of the project was to use some open space, and in Prospect Heights, open space sort of translates to ComEd land. And our connections at ComEd were very enthusiastic and said, yes, this is really a hot thing, and it is, cutting edge, and everyone's looking into it, and it's so great. However, she said that there is some sort of restrictions of what ComEd can do on ComEd land. And this falls definitively in the category of something they cannot do on their land. For some reason, both solar panels cannot be on ComEd right of way. So that's kind of the end of it, because that's the only open space really we have in Prospect Heights, unless somebody thinks of some other open space.
Okay, thanks for pursuing that.
Yep.
Any questions, comments for Seth? Okay.
Thank you, out, Seth.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said thank you to Seth for checking it out.
Okay. Let's move on to the Slough Boardwalk project. Probably the latest thing is we're getting sort of a second round of regeneration of the cattails and the sedges that we planted. We're planning on dealing with that this wicking weekend. So I think otherwise we'll be in good shape. I think what Agnes would like to do is push back a little bit more of those cattails for this year. We still have the signage to create. This is our last year of the grant, so we have to do our final report on. It's got to be in by December 31st. The final report from us on the boardwalk project. So this year, the rest of this year is just going to be completely on the balance of the work that we have to do with the plants and the landscape. So
And the signage.
Other than that, that's pretty much where we are. Any questions?
One idea about the signage, right? I don't know if we've discussed this, but about putting the posts that are existing and creating those cute little signs, or maybe a little bit larger signs that are at Pollinator Park. Those are really nice. And we could use the existing posts that are already there.
Agnes had this idea that the existing posts that we have, or the anchor posts for the boardwalk, you put a coupling in there and it just extend the post up so the sign comes up higher, uses the same post. That was a great idea. And they have all kinds of mounts that work with that system. So
And just cute little information along the way.
right. So that's what we'll take a look at doing. We were supposed to have $1,400 in the budget for this. We'll talk about that when we get to budgets.
Can I ask a question about cattail management? When at the end of the season, when the cattails are letting loose their seeds, it's almost as if it's snowing. How do we not lose that battle? As long as we have one cattail, will we always be in a battle?
Well, I don't think their main method of spread is rhizomatous. So I think those millions of seeds don't end up actually producing a plant. So I think
Okay.
that's one part. The other part is it's really difficult, because they're in a really wet place. It's even difficult right now to get out there yesterday I wanted to clip one of the cattails to show the difference between the narrow leaved and the broad leaved we like sunk in mud. So to actually get out there and clip them before they seed would be really difficult because we
Right.
just don't have that capability. But I'm hoping that because I know that their main method of spread is rhizomes, that most of those seeds don't ever get anywhere.
Good. Great. Thank you.
It's actually when that pollen comes out, it's more like a dust storm.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll go to Pollinator Park update. The only update I have for you at this point is that the lilies that we ordered for the aquatic planting are going to ship on Monday. They'll need to be installed somewhere between Wednesday and Thursday if they arrive. So that's on the docket for interns for next week.
That makes me think of one quick question. I was at what was it called? Deer Path, Deer Grove, or whatever.
Deer Grove, yeah.
And they have these, ponds all around there, and the ponds are filled with this aquatic plant that has a purple flower right now. Pickerelweed, right? Yeah. They have tons of them, and they look so beautiful, and they're native. Yeah. Is that something?
We planted it. We planted it. It's right there in the exposure. Problem with pickerelweed is that, well, there's a couple of things. Number one, it doesn't like very fast-moving water. Okay. So it likes to be like shallow, sort of stable pools, and we know that the water moves quickly when we get a storm event. So that's one problem. The other problem is it's a pretty conservative species. So also, any kind of salt runoff or pollution or things like that can make it die off. But mostly it's that wave action. It doesn't like to be disturbed much. It would really do well in sort of isolated, small areas that are very secluded and don't have as much wave action.
Okay.
But that would be, it's great. I love that plant so much. We actually, in the original common planting 8 years ago, we had like 4 trays of this. And we
really?
all up and down the slough. And it just eventually went away because of that wave action.
The only place it survived is where there's a little bit of an inlet.
Yeah, where there's just
you can see it over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great idea. I just don't know how to make it happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Next up is the promotional materials. We still have $1,000 in the budget to work with. This is part of the Hinman grant. I never got any decisions from anyone on the information that I sent out. We had a price of shirts with a 4-inch logo at $13 a piece, and hats with embroidered patch at $11 each. And I sent everybody a color chart, sizes, all that information, and nobody responded. So I'm not sure.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, you did. Believe me, you did.
Did anybody else get that?
I don't recall it.
No.
I'll resend it.
I really.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
We don't mean to be ignoring you. You work so hard.
I bet it's probably too hard because you get so much information. It's like,
yeah,
stop.
I didn't even know about it. I didn't even know about this.
All right, I will bite my tongue and resend it, and then let's try to revisit that ASAP. Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on, then the Shoreline restoration project is. I'll give you a status update. We just ordered the core logs, the erosion blankets, and the stakes. You recall that we have a fixed budget of $6,000 every year, and it was based on there was a variable there, and what we did is we took it as an average. So each year we were supposed to do X amount of, according to John's severity chart index, we were going to try to restore the most critical areas first, and of course the critical areas were larger. and they exceeded what the average was. So there was something to be figured out there with the funding being fixed at 6,000 per year, and the linear foot expense being well over that. Whereas at the end of it, you're going to have very little of that and a lot of money. So working with Peter Falcone on this, his suggestion was that we simply scale the project back for this first year so we stay within the confines of the $6,000 budget. Now, when I reached out to Haynes for a fresh quote on the materials, the original target we were going for was 165 feet for this year. The prices that came back were just astronomical, and so when I first quoted the project with him, telling him that it's a 5-year project, he told me that we needed to increase the cost of the core logs 10% every single year. And so based on that chart, he came back with pricing for the core logs that's already at 2 years down the road. But the big kicker was the delivery fee, which was almost $1,700. So you were talking about way over budget, not being able to accomplish much of anything. And he threw out the possibility that we could, pick up the materials ourselves. The guy across the street, our neighbor, is in logistics, and we reached out to him, and through a combination of reducing the bite this year to 150 linear feet. And remember, last year the pilot was 120 feet. So it's okay, it's in the realm of doability. But a combination of backing down on the actual amount of materials and then reaching out to Eric, who works with several contractors. His boss agreed that he would do it for a reduced fee. And if it went over that fee, he would make it a donation to us. So they're picking it up for basically $800 as opposed to $1,700. So that permits us to go ahead and order 150 feet instead of like 100 to come in with the budget. So kudos to Eric for across the street. We have ordered the materials. We have 150 feet of core logs. I'm waiting on the date that those are going to be ready for pickup. In the meantime, the erosion blankets and the oak stakes are going to be delivered here sometime next week. I'll be placing the order for the jute rope and everything else, the staples. Then all we have left is the fill dirt and the delivery. So
I think we need to delineate exactly which
yeah,
one.
I've reached out to John too. So John is going to meet with us and then lay out exactly where he wants that 150 feet to occur, and we'll know a lot more about what we're in for. It's something that we really have to get moving on because we have the interns for only 4 more weeks. Peter, you were a big part of that last restoration. You know what driving those stakes into that clay bottom are like. It's rough. So there's a lot of work ahead, and but I think it's the best resolution possible for this year. So that's what we're doing. Any questions about that?
No, but I'd like to know when we schedule the work. I know I'm petite, but I'd like to be part of the work day.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. I can guarantee you that every Wednesday will be dedicated to getting those core logs in and getting that initial stabilization down. The rest of it is just a matter of planting, and God knows we have the plants. So we're ready to rock and roll. Any questions, comments?
There's a lot of work, Dana and Agnes, that needs to be done before, right? A lot of clearing, brush removal, tree removal.
Yeah, that's why we got to find out from John exactly where he wants his 150 feet so we can start on that.
Yeah, we'll do that as soon as we meet with him.
He's out of town right now, so I've already told him that we need to meet, so I would suspect next week or Saturday. Okay. All right. Moving on then, we'll go to path maintenance and work sites. The interns are doing a pretty good job of keeping the paths open at this point. They've had enough schooling on it that I think they're making a run once a week through. There's still a couple areas that always need touched up, but by and large, the paths are wide open and ready for action. So, any comments, questions?
Yeah, I have a comment. It's you've heard this from me before, but I'd like to be a very big participant in path maintenance, but I have a phobia of sorts of poison ivy, and there's just a lot of poison ivy that it really discourages me from doing some path maintenance some of the time. And I would just make a plea that I know there's so much work that everyone has to do, and I know the interns are extended to the hilt, but if there's some way in the maybe not in the shortest of terms, but maybe in the medium term, if we can think about a plan for going after poison ivy, especially poison ivy that's close to the paths.
Yeah. So the problem is that a lot of the vegetation, there's many problems, but the part of the vegetation is really overgrown. So it's very likely to be able to get other things other than poison ivy when you herbicide. The other thing is on those hot days that we've had, we can't apply herbicide past like 80, 85 degrees. That's another thing. And the herbicide that works on the poison ivy the best is the one that really shouldn't be applied later on, So, I mean, last year when they tried to do this, we got a big blowout, so it volatilized. And so that's the issue. I think that we really need to go after the poison ivy early on in the season in, April, May probably. That's the issue with a lot of these invasive plants. It's really, really good to go after them very early on in the season. Unfortunately, we don't have those interns then.
Right.
But we'll try to do as much as we can.
What-
Peter, do you have any?
Yeah, what herbicide do you use for that early on, Agnes?
Well, Garland's really good for it.
Yeah. Okay,
And Garland's the one that can't be used, in higher
Right.
temperatures.
early only.
Yeah, and glyphosate doesn't really work that well on it, and
I think it drinks glyphosate.
It might, but then also then you kill other things around it, so then you end up just having a dead zone. So it's a tough one, the other herbicides don't work on it, and you really want to use Garland early on in the season and go after it.
We'll have to target it early.
Very early.
I don't like poison ivy either.
Me neither. I see it everywhere. I have some in my yard right now, and I'm thinking, what do I do with it right now?
Okay, well noted. Let's try to adopt the policy of getting it early, for sure.
Maybe I think we can get someone in the fall when the temperatures drop a little bit.
Okay, moving on then to the seed greenhouse program. We are well over 40,000 plants at this point. That last Sunday was absolutely amazing with 21 volunteers, and 4,000 plants got transplanted from the 1-inch cells to the 2.5-inch cells. Every square inch of our yard front and back is covered.
Completely covered.
And we're happy as hell.
Except for the watering part.
No, the watering part we've taken care of. I hired my granddaughter. She has a summer job, and it's getting really well done, and we don't have to mess with it, so it's perfect.
4 hours a day of watering.
Every day she waters for 4 hours, so it's great. But we are in really good shape to tackle these projects that we have coming up. So
we have plants for everything, and we'll have leftover plants for next year.
So, any questions about that? We abandoned Transplant Wednesdays at this point because we're going to be shifting gears to the Shoreline, and I still want to get that corner over there, Seth. Well,
Some point now.
okay, moving on then to the 4th of July parade, 2nd of July parade. I think everybody should say something about it. First of all, I want to give a big shout out to Ed. The photos are phenomenal. Thank you. I'm having a real hard time deciding what goes in a journal. I think it's too much to put them all in.
Probably.
But kudos to absolutely everybody who was involved with that. That was just, I mean, from John's original idea to just the skullduggery of the hours of making that happen and not even thinking about it because it was just such a joyous event to bring about.
And all of the community that came together, and all those people with the costumes, and just, I mean, it was just felt so much love and warmth. I mean, I had goosebumps the whole time, and just really enjoyed.
The good news is it's a movable feast, so it's all in storage in John's basement, and next year's gonna be a heck of a lot easier.
If I could say one thing, and that's that obviously my part in it was the easiest. I just had to document all the hard work that everyone else did. But I think the joy that we got from the Prospect Heights one, of course, it's our hometown and that's our most meaningful. But to compare that to the July 4th one in Arlington Heights, which was completely different animal, but it was just incredible. I mean, thank God we did that one second than the other way around, because I mean, literally there were many parts of that parade route that had 10 people deep, shoulder to shoulder. It was just incredible. And the welcome that our group got was just phenomenal. I mean, the rounds of applauses that several dozen of them along the route. It was just really fantastic. And I know you guys had to miss out on that, but I just wanted to relay, to everyone just what, a culmination of joy it was for everyone.
Yeah, the one event that still just blew me away was when the osprey flew over with that fish.
Right over us.
Right over us. It sort of
Sales.
dipped down.
Well, that's the bird picture
Oh my God, that was.
that's in there.
I mean, talk about a premonition. It was, or a sign, whatever. That was awesome.
Plus, if you could mention the award that the float won at the Arlington Heights Parade, it was number one in one of the categories.
It was voted number one in the non-commercial section. What that means, I don't know. What the award is, who knows?
Well, I can tell you it's significant because most of the floats were non-commercial. I mean, there were some, there was a car dealership and some businesses, but most of it was community. So
it was like 90.
get number one of that's saying something.
96 floats
Well,
or trees or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly, you got to give a huge shout out to Kate Tully. I mean, it's just by sheer force of will that woman made that float look like that.
Oh,
So,
And John.
and
Giving
John,
his house for days on end, every single evening. He would have people coming during the day, during the evening, working on things, organizing it, sending emails, having everybody on the same page. That's just
And
unbelievable.
feeding people too.
And feeding people every evening for days.
yeah, it's a real effort of force. I mean, it was great. So,
Yeah.
thanks to everybody. Spectacular.
Could I make a comment, please?
Yeah.
First, we have to say that Karen Schulteis really paid us a lot of nice compliments, and
Did.
did she not say that we set the bar higher? So I thought that was very nice of her. I'm already thinking next year, instead of tossing bags of candy, to somehow provide bars or something. So I'm working on that. If there's a way we could distribute ice cream instead of chocolate. The only thing that I was a little uncomfortable with, who were the two people that were carrying the signs? Because I did not recognize them, and they said support biodiversity and something else. Who
Well,
were
that
they?
was Jerome McDonald and his wife.
All right. Well, for some reason, that just didn't sit well with me. I don't know why, but I was a little uncomfortable with it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I guess because I didn't know them, and yeah. I don't know. I felt like this is a parade, not a march, if you will. I don't know. It just didn't sit well. I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, but it just didn't sit well with me.
Okay.
I wanted to mention it.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on then. Last item under old business is the seed giveaway for River Trails Park District. I have 3/4 of those envelopes tagged. They're going to go to her on Monday, and we'll be done with that obligation. They're greatly appreciative, and that's it. So this was, again, there's 150 seed packets per annum packet with River Trails Park District, just like we did with the library. Same deal. So those will be delivered on Monday. Moving on to new business. Unless anybody has any comments or questions. Talking to Laura, who's the camp coordinator, the week that she has given us is the week of the 8th of August. And it looks like the consensus here is the 8th or the, excuse me, the 8th or the 9th as the days when everybody is most available. Peter is not available on the 9th. John is not available on the 8th. Kate and Mara from the Sunflower Group have graciously agreed to help us out again. And so the questions are, what day and how many days? So I think I would advocate, just me personally, I would advocate for making it one day, just because we have so much going on and so much on our plate, but really make it a spectacular day. And then is it just, is it, it's obviously Marana and the creek is a big draw there with all the magnifying glasses. So the question is it, the other question is it half day or a full day? Last time we did,
half day. We've always done a half day because they have swimming in the afternoon.
Oh yeah, right, okay.
So it's always a half day. It's always just the morning.
And it's the same format. It's X number of kids divided into groups, rotation based on how much time we have. So the question is then?
1 or 2 days.
1 or 2 days?
And which one?
And which ones?
Well, if I can just share, either one I would work to make regardless. However, when I say either one, I'm kind of showing my answer. I really think we should hone in on one. I would have a difficult time making both days. Not necessarily to base it on that, but it just would be difficult for me. Given a preference, I would pick the 9th, but again, I can make the 8th work too.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? The Monday is the 8th. Tuesday is the 9th. If that makes any difference to anybody.
I would suggest just one day.
One day.
Okay, and we're both 1 day. So I'd say, all right, number one, consensus is it's 1 day only. And the next item is which day?
I don't have a preference.
Is there any cosmic reason to make it a Monday instead of a Tuesday?
Well, I think if you look at, the 2 people that have a conflict is Peter and John.
Mm-hmm.
So John can only make the 9th and Peter can only make the 8th.
Mm-hmm. Peter, do you have any strong feeling?
8, 10, or 12, I think. Those are
8, 10, and 12 is what you said.
Yeah, so any of those days work.
So you wouldn't be able to make it on the 9th?
Not in the morning. I usually work on Tuesday mornings. That's the only hint. It's not a big thing either for me. I'm not a big part of that, program. So don't base it on me.
So you wouldn't mind if we did it the 9th?
Not at all. Not at all. Go ahead. If it works for the majority, go ahead.
Well, that would give Seth a partner in Skins and Skulls for sure.
It would make it easier for me to go to work at least one day, like on Monday.
Yeah, it would be better for you for work.
It would be better for me for work.
All right, so should we say we'll choose the 9th? Okay. 1 day, the 9th of August. Done. I will let everybody know start thinking about what it is we want to do. I think we need 5 stations. Skins and Skulls and Edna Creek are 2 absolute positives.
Definitely.
The
100%.
arts and crafts with Mara and
They will
Kate
think
is
of that,
3.
and then
So we need like at least 2 more.
So what we've had done in the past is a nature walk, but maybe we could spice it up a little bit. A nature walk, and then the other one was the interns have always thought of a game, a really
Right.
nice,
Intern
like
game.
active, interactive game that they do. So, you know,
We'll talk to the interns in the
talk to the
morning.
interns. We have some time to think about it. We can go back and forth about what that could be.
Okay,
Are we talking a half day on the 9th or all day?
half day.
Half day, because they swim in the afternoon.
Got it.
All right, I'll let the park district know. All right, thank you. Moving on, Illinois Prairie Week. Jill sent out
Really great
a
ideas.
detailed list of recommendations.
Mhm.
There were
But-
some conflicts with what she had proposed. The
The nature speaks.
Nature Speaks we can't do because it's not a date that we have, and
Saturday
the
the bird walk.
bird walk is the weekend before, and that's a fixed date as well. So
But we have the pop-up art show on the 24th, which
Mhm.
is that Saturday instead of the bird walk, so that replaces that.
so basically we have the work day to lead off that week, and we have the pop-up art sale to close out that week. What do you guys think about doing a history of the Prairie tour on the middle of the week on Wednesday?
I like it.
Okay.
All right, so that's done.
Special seed collection Wednesday, I like that too. I think it's a great idea.
All right, do you want to try to do the Prairie tour, history tour in the morning?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. It's too much to do seed collection and prairie tour in the evening.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't be
Right.
possible.
Right.
All right, so that leaves Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm sorry, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. We do not have to fill all those slots. I think we're at a point where we just think about it.
You saw my thing where I could place something in the St. Al's Church bulletin,
Love it.
and that they could probably do a blast. Is there anything where we could offer service hours for the youth groups, like the American Heritage Girls? Would that help you on Wednesday when you're off or something? Something to think about?
Yeah, maybe the seed collection.
Yeah.
That would be a great activity for service hours and get a lot of seed collecting. Just have to find a perfect spot.
Seth, what do you think about doing something with either 214 or with District 23 on one of those weeks,
Good days.
one of those days during Prairie Week, maybe at the Conrad Prairie, or I mean, one of the things that we did at the Prairie was the sensory table that was a big hit.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we reach out to Stephanie Ritter and try to program one of those days as a Prairie Day. Any thoughts, anybody?
Hi. Sorry, my signal just backed up for a moment. So what would we do with 214 and 20 and 23? What would you want to do with them?
Well,
He just changed it to Macarthur or
it's Macarthur or Betsy Ross, either one.
the middle schools.
The middle schools doing a Prairie Day at the Prairie. You recall when we
Before COVID, we would have them out the prairie for an
Right.
hour or 2 hours coming out.
and they did a sensory table where they had you had to smell the plant and then go find it. You had to feel the plant and go find it, and you're
That
blindfolded.
was one of our nature camps.
That was
But we
right.
could
but
incorporate it.
could extend it to that. Yes.
Yeah, we could incorporate it into maybe something with Macarthur. Reach out to Macarthur or reach out to Betsy Ross and see if they're interested in something like that. The middle schools.
Can you remind me just one more time? We're talking about what days in September?
This would be Prairie Week, so we're talking about either
It's between the 18th and the 24th.
Right.
Those are the dates of Prairie Week.
so Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, any of those days.
Yeah, there's a good chance I probably will not be available.
Okay.
Okay. Well then. Okay. Well, we'll think about it some more.
All right, so we'll come back to this at some point. If you guys have any great ideas, forward them. Okay, moving on. The Macarthur Middle School Prairie, Agnes.
So Stephanie Ritter, who's a study teacher, who is also a wonderful teacher, who takes out her kids to the Prairie several times in the past few years. She has been asking us if there's some way that we could naturalize an area around Macarthur so that the kids can have an educational space, and that, you know, this could be a wonderful opportunity for them and they would participate. And so she's been doing all the legwork, reaching out to the administration and the grounds crew and everybody. I just say, sure, we'll help. We'll take a look, we'll help. And so at this point, we haven't met yet. And I guess the principal is now involved for the most part. And so he's really excited about it. And so we're just waiting for a date just to meet and even talk about it. There's nothing really planned, just to look at what what that space is and what can be done there, what kind of help we can provide.
You know, there's that area, not so sure we can call it a creek, but where we did our One Nature Palooza, right on the very far south end of the property, there at least is a somewhat natural area there. So maybe that might be it. I know it's a good distance away from the school building itself, but that's just what popped up for me as a potential good site in terms of being around and out of the, you know, way of other traffic.
Sure. I think they were particularly looking at a detention basin that they have that is causing issues and problems for them, and
okay.
or anything, and gets wet all the time. And so
It's the St. Al's deal.
Kind of a St. Al's situation, which turned out really nice.
Okay, let's move on then. That decision is still out there, so we don't have a decision on them whether they actually want to go forward with it. So as soon as we know, we'll know. The treasurer report, I'm going to fill in for John. I sent everybody earlier this evening a revised budget based on the fact that we had to order more trays for $824.70 today or yesterday. So at this point, we have a net revenue in our general operating budget of $9,701, and the Shoreline restoration has a current balance of $1,696.30. What has to come out of that $1,696.30 are staples, which are like $80. $800 of that has to go to the trucking company that's going to be bringing the product to us.
Carpet exposure.
And we have a carpet exposure. And the balance of that needs to go to the fill dirt required for the project. So that I'm confident will come out even. We still have of that 9,701. The balance of that's going to be gobbled up by the 4 weeks of the interns. We still do have 1,000 left in the Hinman thing. So if we want to order apparel or any promotional stuff further, we can do that. And that's pretty much where it is. As far as the park district goes, and the accounting for the boardwalk project, boardwalk grant, our records are completely different than theirs. I don't know what they're doing. We're trying to figure it out. We have roughly $2,000 left in the kitty for that finish of that project. 1,400 of that is earmarked for signage. They show us at negative 1,700, which is impossible. So
it's an easy little tiny thing. I think.
Yeah, it's how they've accrued the intern hours from last year
and put it into
right.
that.
They took the whole number and it shouldn't.
And so that it'll be worked out. It's not a big deal.
And Dana, just so you're aware, I spoke with Christina, and our finance department is working with their finance department to get it all straightened away.
Okay, great. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you so much.
So that's it for the budgets. Any questions? Anybody got any questions?
Yeah. One question about funds we have perhaps to spend on certain promotional materials, whatever. The brochures put out by, I think it was University of Illinois Extension, those beautiful brochures. Are we planning to buy more of those, and do we have money to buy more of those?
We have a ton of them left, right? Which brochures?
Those big books.
They're like 8.5 by 11 booklets of beautiful pictures of native plants and native.
We've given out very few of those to date. We still have a balance of those. We can certainly buy more. The price is going to be the same. It's not going to change. So it's a matter of what do we want to do.
Okay. At one point we talked about, I don't know what our feelings are about this. At one point we talked about in the Pollinator Park area having a library where people can take those kind of brochures. Are we feeling we're still into that idea or not so much? Or
well, Peter, you had originally said you were talking about the possibility of building something that would hold the brochures or something. Is that something you'd still entertain the idea of doing?
Yeah, the only concern I have is if the residents or the city does not like the obstruction of something like that on their property.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should run it. We should run it by Public Works. Let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk to Mark Roscoe about it, and then we'll get back to Peter.
Let me just make a quick note here. Okay, moving on then from the budgets. Commissioner's site monitoring reports. I think everybody's turned one in. Did everybody have a chance to read it? And do you have any questions about anybody's report?
All good.
Okay. Moving on then, the city civic meetings. Jill?
Nothing too much to report, but they did have in one of the city council meetings about the corridor agreement between Prospect Heights and Glenview and the 32 acres that we've annexed. I'm still not clear what it all means, but the city council was very excited about it. It's been something in the works since the 1990s. Especially the former Allstate property is going to be redeveloped. So it's a win-win situation, according to the council, for both Glenview and Prospect Heights. Peter Falcone, I don't know if you want to add anything, but that's what I took away from the meeting.
The 32 acres that is currently within the boundaries of Prospect Heights now is adjacent to the Forest Preserve, just north of Winkleman along Sanders and just south of what would be Palatine Road. That's vacant land right now. That is owned by Allstate, but it's in the jurisdiction of Prospect Heights. Through this corridor agreement amendment, because we have an agreement with Glenview already along Sanders Road, we are giving up that 32 acres to Glenview so that the entire Allstate redevelopment, both on the east side and west side of Sanders, is under the jurisdiction of the same municipality. In this case, it would be Glenview. And then through that agreement with Glenview, that corridor agreement, we will get tax revenue from the entire site. So yeah, you're right. Glenview's happy with it, and we're happy with it. So, and Allstate's happy with it because they get to sell their property, and Germany gets to build their development now. So.
And there was some mention about us purchasing water from Glenview too. Is that a separate agreement, Peter?
That's been added to the corridor agreement, and it's something that would have to be worked out in greater detail because we don't even have infrastructure that goes up to that goes along Winkleman there. So for us, Glenview has expressed interest in selling us water at some point, but there's a great deal that would have to be involved because we would actually have to put infrastructure in to hook up to them. So that's a conversation that's going to be long down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Jill, too.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on then, announcements to the public. Anyone have any? Seth?
Yeah, I do. I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about one of our least favorite friends, and that's the mosquito. This time of year, a lot of our fellow Prospect Heights residents are dealing with mosquitoes, and I just wanted to talk about it from a little bit of a natural resources perspective. And also a little bit of education, if I can have just a few moments. A lot of people might be interested to know that the way mosquitoes find out about us is because when we breathe, we let out carbon dioxide, and they can sense the carbon dioxide from over 100 feet away. And then they zoom in on us, and as they get close, they sense our body heat and our odors, and then they, come into us. It turns out it's only the females that bite us. The males don't need, the females need the blood to make eggs. And the males are okay. That's not a political comment, by the way. But the females not only need the blood, they also need water. And so one of the ways, if you're interested in getting rid of mosquitoes in your yard, one of the things is not to have standing water. And they just need like an inch. Or even less. So things like make sure your gutters are clean, so there's no standing water in your gutters. Make sure there's water out of the, even the like trays that you might have a pot in, and the tray collects water, dump those out. Obviously anything if you have old tires in your yard, those kind of things. Thing that's keeping standing water, like bird baths. It's nice to have a bird bath, but what you should do is the water has to be standing for a couple of days. So what you just need to do is fine to have the bird bath, but just wash it out every few days and have new water, and wash it out every few days and have new water. And that way the eggs can't mature. So the larvae can't mature. So that's one of the ways to get rid of the mosquitoes. But I want to just talk again from a natural resources perspective of two ways that people commonly try to get rid of mosquitoes that are actually really bad environmentally. They don't work, and in fact, they're counterproductive. And the two ways I want to mention is one is foggers. People use foggers, and they can either apply them themselves or get a company to do it. But foggers use a chemical that actually kills all insects. It's an insect general kind of chemical for the most part that most foggers use. So they're killing not just mosquitoes, they're killing butterflies and bees and ladybugs and fireflies. They're just killing all insects. So it's just not a very productive way, because what can happen is so you kill all the insects in your yard, the mosquitoes can fly from far away and come back into the yard after the fogger's done. And all you've done is wipe out all good things. And not only that, there's some insects that eat mosquitoes. So you've actually sort of counterproductive in that way. And although it doesn't hurt birds directly, the birds feed on insects. So now it's damaging the food supply to birds. And the birds also want mosquitoes to eat mosquitoes. So it's actually, it's a counterproductive thing to use these foggers, especially if it's damaging to our beneficial insects. The other thing that people often use is bug zappers. They estimate that about 99% of the things you're killing are not mosquitoes or any kind of biting insects. About 1% or less of what's killed is biting insects, but about 99% are not. And again, it's just a temporary thing, because the mosquitoes still can sense you and still come in and can still lay their eggs and stuff. So again, the foggers and the bug zappers, I would really try to discourage people from using them from a natural resources perspective. And then just sometimes, what other things you can do? You can use DEET. Sometimes people use DEET, that's helpful. Another thing is actually a fan. Believe it or not, one of the most effective things is if you're sitting on a porch and your porch has an electric outlet, just plug in a fan. And a breeze is actually one of the most effective ways to get a mosquito away from you. So a simple fan. There is a new substance called BTI pellets that some people say work. It's something you can look into. But, I would just suggest you use an electric fan. And one last thing, they tend to be attracted to dark clothing. So you might want to wear light clothing. That's it.
That is
Great.
excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
That's
sir.
awesome.
Appreciate that.
Nature speaks. Okay.
Alrighty then.
Visitor comments. We have no visitors,
no
so we have no
visitors.
comments.
No comments.
Therefore, I would ask somebody to motionally adjourn.
We adjourn, and I hope, Agnes, you feel better. Get some rest.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
And then
Thank you, everyone.
Motion.
Take care.
Motion approved.